We're live here. It is the Rich Lieberman Media Pulse. I haven't spoken a lot about KCBS of late is because of the fact that I'm trying to, shall we say, give them a chance. I've heard about a lot of changes. I've heard about a lot of possible reforms. I've heard a lot about various personnel migrating to San Francisco. And while that has taken place and while there have been some improvements, it's still a big pile of doo-doo, dreck, as somebody would say. First off, few things. Um, Steve Scott is a noticeable new voice on KCBS. Now, he comes to the city from New York, WCBS. And look, to me, this is a lot better than some of the usual suspects. Scott certainly sounds professional, sometimes a little bit too robotic, but they're obviously, I say they obviously, I hope that this guy is perhaps put in a permanent placement, like say, the morning, because morning needs help. Hell, the afternoon needs help, but at least I'm talking about morning drive and PM drive. Okay. And Scott, who I put up a photo as chops. At least he's got some news acumen. As I said, he comes off maybe a little bit on the air, at least, too robotic. That kind of, radio voice. But at least he has some modicum of news acumen. I assume this guy didn't come out to work part-time, so they definitely have, I would imagine, not imagine, I know that they're going to put him somewhere permanent. I would hope. I don't take anything for granted. But let's just say this. Yeah. Put him in the morning at morning drive with Margie Schaefer. That ain't going to happen probably. But or perhaps even the PM drive. But first and foremost, morning drive needs help. I'm sorry, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Eric Thomas, very, very credible newsman, worked in television here. He's not a morning drive guy. I'll say it millions and millions of times because it's true. I'm not one who looks at check the boxes qualifications. I look, and I don't care whether Eric Thomas is black or white or Asian, Hispanic, red, blue, purple, yellow. He's not a morning drive guy. Nobody has to be an expert to make that calculation. It's true. He just doesn't have that kind of voice. I'm not saying you jump up and down and act like a complete imbecile, but you have a guile. You have some degree of passion, and he just doesn't have that. I'm not so sure about Margie Schaefer being his co-pilot, but at least she's got elements. Eric Thomas does not. So perhaps we'll hear come the beginning of the year, in a few more weeks, Steve Scott named to be the morning co-anchor with Schaefer and put Eric Thomas at noon, say, just for example, or wherever. Maybe evening, 7 to midnight, something like that. Trust me, whoever's running the show there at KCBS. You've hired Scott. He's got WCBS roots. Sounds pretty good, but he needs to be in a permanent placement, okay? That's number one. Number two, I'm told by a very, very credible contact that joke of coverage during the so-called tsunami, which was never a full-scale tsunami, there was a warning. There was a warning. There was warning because of an earthquake that was in the very, very sparsely populated north coast of California. Not worthy of the hysterical coverage that KCBS, speaking of Schaefer, and by God, godly, awful Shane Guinness, that there was a great modicum of turmoil with regards to the few people who understand what news coverage is all about. Anyway, that turmoil over that ridiculous coverage reached everybody and continues to be lamented by the very few good people who work at KCBS. Okay? I'm just told of that. You have to have you have to have credibility. You have to at least make it appear as if you care, of course, that you have decent people, that you have people who know what a story is and what a story is not, and that was not worthy of the hysterical coverage that you gave it. Perhaps you should take some of the money. Well, in this case, there was no money, as I digress a little bit. The holiday party, I'm told, the Christmas party at KCBS constituted a secret Santa that the employees put together. Odyssey didn't even have the courtesy that rhymes of putting together just a basic holiday party. Yeah, a few sandwiches, maybe a pizza. Oh, maybe some Kentucky Fried Chicken, perhaps. No, that would be KTVU and Fox, but that's another story. But look, you're not spending money on holiday parties. You have 8 gazillion commercials. That still is a problem. I know, look, radio isn't free, terrestrial radio, but you have to pick and choose where you put the spots. The commercials are killing you. People tell me constantly, KCBS, that they do this or this. They press the button because you have too many commercials. You have to be able to figure out that people are turning off, in addition to other things too, but you have to have a sort of watchability, in this case, listenability of where you post your commercials. Running 8 minutes of commercials with traffic and weather, even when there's no traffic, even when there's no weather. And I guarantee you, people are turning off. The few people that listen still are turning the station. They're only people that I'm told are listening, constantly telling me that they only listen to KCBS because of traffic reports. That's the only reason. And most of those people have the means to get an app to in their cars. Cars are a lot more sophisticated today. They've got their own traffic patterns that they can, put in the vehicle and high tech and all that. They don't have to listen to KCBS. Those are the people that still have AM radios and FM, but they're turning in droves because the commercials are obnoxious. It makes your anchors look bad. It makes everybody look bad. Sometimes, ironically, that's not such a bad thing due to the fact that a lot of your reporters are not ready for prime time, like Mary Hughes, the latest whack-a-mole anchor on the overnight now. I was listening just today on Thursday. Doug Sovereign, your political editor, had a very decent interview with the mayor-elect of San Francisco, Daniel Lurie. I'm thinking of Levine the Machine from Glengarry Glen Ross, which I just watched last night. Now, I've watched it many a times. Daniel Lurie, the new mayor-elect, taking office in a couple of weeks in San Francisco. Why did you have to rush 6 minutes? Sounds like a lot of time, and it is. We deserve 10 minutes. I don't even live in San Francisco, but I'm sure people who are listening to that interview, and it was a decent interview by Doug Sovereign, but make it a 10-minute interview. Make it to where people can understand some of the issues facing that city, and Lurie in particular. Why rush it so we can get another traffic report where there's no traffic or weather? We know it's going to be pouring rain in the next couple of days. So we don't have to hear it 20 different times. And that's another thing, KCBS. I know about listeners coming in and out of their cars, coming in and out of whatever they're doing, and therefore you have to repeat stories. Get it completely. Understand that's Radio 101. But get this, you run a story 10, 15, sometimes 20 times, like this WNBA fascination thing. And I realize you're doing that because of marketing. You're trying to attract women to the KCBS listenership. Granted, fine, but not report after report after report after report, in addition to a special report. You do that constantly. Mary Hughes seems like a nice woman, occasionally sounds decent. She's not a anchor. Just like Raquel Maria Dillon is not an anchor. At best, a fill-in, but a very poor fill-in. Okay, get better personnel, hire better, more, get this, KCBS, qualified people who understand what the hell they're doing and not the rank amateurs. You have enough money to get just adequate people. That would be a start. That would tell everybody in the building that you're dedicated to putting competent, qualified people on the air and not amateurs, not people who just graduated college in Oregon, who are immediately put in a place where they should not be, who have really voices like that, who sound like they're about 16 years old. Not a knock on that person. You got to start somewhere in the business. I get it. But you're not ready for San Francisco. You may be ready for other smaller markets or college radio stations, but you're not ready to perform in San Francisco. Yet KCBS constantly puts on unqualified people. That's why they have, I guess, the whack-a-mole anchors, where you don't know who's going to show up today, tomorrow. It's a different anchor every day, every moment. That, folks, and you know it, that sounds crappy. That's one of the reasons why this station is in decline and continues to be in decline and gets away with it. Why? Because, as I've said for 8 million times now, they are a monopoly. They are a monopoly. We're the Bay Area's #1 news station. You're the only news station, for God's sakes. You have no competition. So guess what? Yeah, hiring Steve Scott and bringing him aboard, that's a good step. I applaud you. Now get him in a permanent time slot. Morning, greatly appreciated. Midday, perhaps, somewhere. And don't throw him around. And again, I assume, because I'm sure this guy didn't come from New York and pay whatever expensive betting that he has to pay, not even including family. You have to get this guy a permanent slot. Come January, I figure we'll hear, I would imagine, Steve Scott. Probably somewhere. We don't know yet, and I'll try to find that out for you, my watchers. So look, KCBS, they got so much work to get done. The overload of commercials, the whack-a-mole anchors, the less than qualified reporters, people like Mary Hughes and Shane Guinness, who they've literally, guy started out as a producer, then a traffic overnight anchor. Then they put him on as a news anchor. Then they put him in the morning. Then they put him at midday. Now he's back on the overnight. Look at this guy, may be a nice guy. He sounds with literally like he has rocks in his mouth, not ready for prime time. But I guess you have to employ him. So wherever, but he needs more seasoning. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe as a reporter, he would be adequate. not an anchor, but that's KCBS. So while certain things have improved, certain things have not improved. You are or used to be a legacy station, not just on radio, but the entire San Francisco Bay Area. Right now, you're really, again, stuck, not even in neutral, you're stuck in an outside gear. It's not good for the ears. It's not good to listen to. And there's underlying way too many commercials. Radio, yes, is it free? But you can't attract listeners, let alone keep the few that are staying on with any commercial overload. You're acting greedy, Odyssey, KCBS. That will not work. I guarantee you that will be a plus factor. Hell no. Minus factor, yes. Yes, because people are not listening. They're tuning you out. The only people you have are the people who are stuck listening to you, the few people that have the radio AM, and I know you have an FM outlet. I'm talking about people that only have you on because they have older cars, because just out of courtesy, out of habit, still listen to KCBS. You got a lot of work to do, okay? Got a lot, and I'm not even talking about the bullshit holiday party that you put forth to your employees. So work on it still, KCBS.